We are live again today with a guest that I think you find interesting. He's going to encourage you. I know that. So you guys jump on in here. Let's see. YouTube's almost there. We go. YouTube's on now. Chat is open. Invite you guys to share this, to follow or subscribe, depending on your platform, if you haven't done that already, so you can get the notifications for these wonderful interviews. We're here to encourage you, and especially during the times we've been living in, but every day. We're here to just lift you up, and spiritual growth is the focus here. So if you want to grow spiritually, stretch, be challenged a little bit, be encouraged a lot, you're in the right place. So welcome. Glad to have you today. Today's guest is Joshua Gagnon, and Joshua is a transplanted Texan. I have to point that out. He was born in the great state of Texas, so that makes him, in my book, just, But he is now in New Hampshire, so up in the New England area, and he has campuses. He's a pastor. He has campuses all over the East Coast. So actually, at the moment, he's not up in New England. He is down in Florida. So the guy's just all over the place, and he's got a great new book out. It's called "It's Not Over." So hey, if you've ever faced some disappointment, if you've ever thought, will my dreams ever come true? You're in the right place. We're going to talk to you today. Joshua, how you doing out there?
Doing good. How you doing? Doing well?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. It's Texas is opening again. I know Florida kind of is too, so you're in a good place.
Yeah, they said next week we're going to see a little bit more opening, and so I know our New England area is a little bit still got some time to go, but by God's grace, we'll get there.
Yeah. So I guess you got a campus in Tampa. How many campuses do you have total? Is it 8?
10 locations.
10,
Yeah, we got 10 locations. So we've got 9 locations up in New England. We've got 1 location in Tampa, and so we're starting another location in Tampa this upcoming spring, fall. So we're excited about what God's doing, and yeah.
So I may be completely wrong, but I'm gonna take a shot here. When all this hit, you thought, I need to be in Tampa for this.
It was actually in Tampa when all of this hit. And my family was down here, and when it hit, we said, well, at the end of the day, it's not like we can do anything in New England right now. So we stayed here. We're building relationships, using this as an opportunity to really just be in the community, love on people from a distance, but still be in their lives. And so it's been a blessing. My kids are big golfers, and so it's been an opportunity for them to do some golfing and for us to just get outside. So it's been good.
Yeah, I know Tampa's a great area. I actually like Tampa quite a bit, and I'm a Buccaneers fan, so we won't get hung up on that. Let's talk a little bit about the book. What was sort of the impetus for you, deciding, hey, this is the topic I want to address?
Yeah, well, it really, the book title was born out of a moment that I had inside of a prison. My friend went to prison. He was actually a pastor, and he made a horrible decision. Of course, it was a bad decision. While everybody else swam downstream, I swim upstream. I believe sometimes love swims upstream, even when it's not the easy decision. And he made a horrible decision, but that doesn't mean my love for him was any less. And so I loved him, and I was the first visitor he ever had inside of prison. And we sat at table number 7 when he could have visitors, and we talked for 2 hours. And at the end of our conversation, I looked over at him and I said, I just want you to know it's not over. He looked back at me and he said, I'm not sure that I believe that. And we cried for a minute and gave him a hug for 3 seconds. That's the maximum amount allowed. And he walked off, and I got in my vehicle. And as I was driving home, man, my heart was just super heavy at the thought of seeing people riding their bikes and jogging on the side of the road, pumping gas, working in their yard, going to work. And I started thinking, how many of us throughout the day, how many of us are living our lives that way, where we're not living inside the walls of a prison, but we're living inside of a prison. And that prison is believing that our best days are behind us, that our future isn't greater than our past, that our past mistakes, our past hurts, the wounds, the failures that we've walked through, that those are now the reflection of what our future has to live out of. And so for me, my heart became super heavy because, man, I just believe for those of us that are in Christ Jesus, that our past can be overcome, and that tomorrow we can live in a level of hope that we couldn't experience any other way through the power of Christ. Like we serve a God that overcame death, and so we have to live with the attitude believing that tomorrow anything is still possible because we serve a God who does the impossible. And so for me, that's really where the heartbeat of this book was born. It's a book about believing that tomorrow can be greater, believing that we can see our hopes become a reality as we navigate life here on earth. And so that's how the title came about, and that's how the book was really born, out of this moment where God just showed me just how many of us are living life hurting, how many of us are living life disappointed, and how many of us are living lives limping into the future because we've been wounded into the past.
All right. Well, there's a lot to talk about there. I'm curious though about churches in the New England area. Can be difficult to plant, but you've managed to plant quite a few of them. Have you had some struggles, some resistance, some failures even in your life, just trying to do that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of failures when it comes to church planting. I mean, one of the moments I look back on, it's in the book. I talk about how I didn't go off to Bible school the common way. I didn't graduate high school, go off to Bible school. I actually went off to college for pre-law, criminal justice. I played sports basketball in college and had a dream to, play professionally. And so that was my goal throughout college. And I get home and my mom's like, come to church. I want you to come to church with me. And she convinces me to go to church to see a girl she knew. Long story short, I married a girl at that church, not that one, but a different one. And she convinced me to go to church. And it's in that moment where God really started grabbing my heart, and he broke my heart for people who I was friends with but wouldn't feel comfortable in the church setting that I was used to. And my heart broke for that. And I started thinking, what if we started a church for people that didn't typically go to church? What if we started a church for people who were skeptics, people who had baggage, people who had given up hope, the unchurched people? What if we started a church for that group of people? And so I started taking Bible school online and started leading a small group. And the next thing you know, we start Next Level Church. Well, when I first told somebody that I felt called to be a pastor, it was my pastor at the time. And he looked back at me and he said, "No, I don't think that's what God has for you." And I'm thinking to myself, man, I've finally opened up my heart. I've opened up my heart to the first person ever to tell him about ministry. I already don't feel good enough. I'm already super insecure. Like I already feel super inadequate to ever teach or lead anything godly. And yet my pastor at the time is telling me he's not sure that's what God has for me. And so I would say from the very beginning, we faced resistance at Next Level. We had $270 we started with. We had 12 people. We're in the least church region of the country. We're doing things that very few people were doing at the time. And so people were telling us it wouldn't work, and it was too edgy, and video teaching would never work. Nobody's going to go to church and watch somebody on a video screen. And so around every corner, we continuously faced resistance. But, I'm under the belief that we can't get worried when we face resistance in the midst of chasing after a dream. We have to be concerned when our dreams are so small, there's no reason for resistance to appear. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the resistance, now there can be wise resistance for people speaking life into you, right? People giving you wisdom, but often resistance comes in the way of people that haven't sweat into your dreams, speaking into your dreams. And so for me, from day one, I've just said, we're going to stay true to what we believe God's called us to do. We're not going to get off the wall. And yeah, we've started all sorts of locations at Next Level, and we've seen thousands and thousands of people commit their life to Christ. We've seen families restored, and it's America's least churched region. It's the least church region of the country. It's actually post-Christian, and so it's more European in its faith than it is American. And so for us, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing, and I'm just living proof that God uses the foolish things of the world.
Well, I don't know about that. Here's a little factoid for you. Maybe you know this, but did you know that an airplane cannot fly without resistance? Has anyone ever pointed that out to you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Airplanes can't fly without resistance.
I lost you for a minute.
Oh,
Airplanes can't fly. Yeah, inside of the book, we talk about how the very thing that a plane needs is resistance in order to fly. Yep. And I talk about this moment inside of the book about an eagle. And Jennifer, myself, my wife Jennifer, and our two kids, Malachi and Nehemiah, we were at the zoo. and there was this eagle, and this eagle was just sitting on a stump. And my kids were like, "Come check out this eagle, Dad." So I went over and I was staring at this eagle sitting on a stump. And man, my heart broke for this eagle because it kept looking up at the sky. And I thought, man, and I read a plaque and it said, "This eagle has been wounded and can no longer fly." And I thought to myself, how often does this eagle look up at the sky and wonder what it would be like to fly again? And I saw that eagle and thought about how many people have been wounded and are living their lives grounded. And that's where that thought that you just said, the very thing that an eagle needs, the very thing that a plane needs, is resistance. The only way to soar higher is to use the resistance as a platform in order to get there. And so there's been many times where the resistance we've faced has actually been the platform that's helped to raise us higher.
Yeah, yeah. Someone from New Hampshire is on right now. Where are your campuses in New Hampshire? What cities or townships?
All over. So Keene, you want me to name them all?
Yeah,
Keene,
yeah.
Somersworth, Belmont, Concord, Worcester, Massachusetts, Epping, New Hampshire, Conway, New Hampshire. I could keep going.
Okay.
All of
No, that's great. I just anybody up in that area, I want them to come check out your church if they're not planted somewhere else. So that's
them.
great. All right. If you just she goes to Somersworth, she says. All right. All right.
Awesome.
We got
Awesome.
some of your peeps. Awesome. So we are talking to Pastor Joshua Gagnon. His latest book is It's Not Over, and he chose to release this right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, which is interesting. Interesting that you planned it that way. So,
Yeah, I definitely didn't plan it that way, but it happened that way.
but hey, if you're still stuck at home, especially if you're up in the New England area, you got a little more time. So you have time to order this book and check it out. Talking about how to just overcome stuff, resistance, failures. I'm curious, what's your take on the hardest thing? One of the hardest things for sure to overcome, and that is your own personal, not just failures like, I tried something and it didn't work out, but no, I screwed up. I royally messed up. It was sin. It was me, and I deserve the punishment that should come for doing what I did in my past. What do you tell people that have just really made some bad mistakes?
Yeah, there's a fine line, isn't there, between this idea of grace and redemption and then this idea of consequences and the idea of having to live in the reality of some of the decisions that we've made. And it's a fine line to walk in the Christian world, because we do believe that grace is enough. We do believe that God redeems us no matter what it is we've done or where it is we've been. We do believe that our past can be overcome through the power of Christ. But that doesn't mean that there are not consequences to our decisions. And that doesn't mean that sometimes we're going to have to adjust our future based on the consequences of our decisions. For instance, we started our conversation talking about my friend who's now in prison. He was pastoring a church. Now, if you were to ask me, does he belong in prison? My answer would be yes. He made a mistake that has placed him where I believe the punishment he is experiencing is deserved. However, I don't believe now his entire future is a waste and that God looks from the heavens and says, listen, you made a horrible mistake. It landed you in prison. Now for the next 50 years of your life, you're just going to have to suffer in the agony of your past. I do believe there are consequences. So he's going to now have to adjust his life based on the decisions he's made. So he's going to now have to restructure his life in order to learn to take off from the position he's now in. But I think that's the beauty of grace, and that's the beauty of a God who makes beauty out of ashes, that we do serve a God who forgives us. And so, for instance, you may be in a relationship and you may have made some horrible mistakes. Maybe you cheated on your spouse. You just did some things. You look back and you're thinking, I can't believe I did that. There's no reason for me to hope in the future. You see, our spiritual enemy might say, your past now gives you no reason to hope. But God would say, I died on a cross to forgive you of that sin. Repent, right? Come to me, and I will give you life.
Yeah, and you know what? You said the key word right there, which is repent, which the Greek to turn or to change your mind, literally. How big? I know that's a big thing to you, but how do you communicate to people how critical it is that our minds have to change before that grace can really allow us to have a future again?
Yeah, my hope is to write maybe the next book and it's a two-book deal that we've got going on. So the next book, or one of the books I'm going to write in the future, is on our thoughts, because I have a major passion when it comes to our thought life. I believe that if you show me or tell me your thought life, I'll show you your future.
Wow.
I believe that our thoughts truly do determine our reality, and they determine our future. And so I would say, one of my favorite scriptures is to transform our minds, right? To transform the way we live, to transform our being by changing the way that we think. And I don't know about you, but I often have to remind myself of different thoughts, right? So I'm often thinking things that are not worthy, or not pure, not lovely, not righteous. And so I've had to teach myself to take my thoughts captive and make them obedient to Christ. And so in those moments when we're looking at our future and hoping for something different, but then we're reminded of our past and how we've already messed up our future based on our past, I have to remind myself there's no way I'm taking that thought captive. There's no way that I serve a God. There's no way, looking at the character of God, reading the word of God, understanding the principles of God, there's no way that a mistake in my past causes me to forfeit any hope in the future. So I take that thought captive. I make it obedient to Christ. I remind myself to take that thought captive, make it obedient to Christ, and so yeah, I do think our thought life determines the way we live.
100%. I recently was working in the yard, and someone had irritated me, and not my wife. So if she's watching, it has nothing to do with you. Someone had irritated me, and I'm just working. So I mean, I'm focused on the yard work, but my mind's running elsewhere also. And I realized that I was playing out this kind of confrontational, imaginary confrontation in my mind with this person that I don't, frankly, really know. All of a sudden I went, what am I doing? What is going on? This kind of, oh boy, I just almost was not even aware that my thoughts were just running in this area that it made no sense, and it really didn't need to be running. And
Yeah.
once you point out two things, that your thoughts determine your future, and that you can take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ, and you start to realize what that looks like, you become aware all of a sudden of sometimes how our thoughts just kind of run out ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
talk a lot. One of my passions is talking about exactly what you're talking about, how we so often write stories in our mind that never become a reality.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times, and I get a little embarrassed to even admit this, but how many times my wife has died in a car crash.
Oh,
I know that sounds horrible, but it's so true. How many times that she doesn't answer her phone and I immediately go into story mode, and I start telling myself like something must have happened. I wish I should go look for her. My kids, what about them? And I start going into panic mode. You start living in fear mode. And that's just my example. And I know everybody that's with us would lie if they said they didn't relate to that,
oh,
because
totally, I do.
and so for me, one of the things I've learned is I've lived out more pain in my life due to stories that I've told myself that never became a reality
Yeah.
than the pain I've lived out by things that did become a reality. And I think one of the goals in life is we should refuse to live out pain. We should refuse to live out the hurts of stories that we've made up in our minds that have never become a reality. Think about the amount of fear that would completely fall off our plate. Think about the amount of pain that would completely fall off our plate if we chose to no longer fear, to no longer worry, to no longer live out the pain of stories written in our mind that never become a reality.
So true.
I mean, I'd be living my best life now.
Yeah. So, and how many kids do you have?
We have two boys, Malachi and Nehemiah, 12 and 11.
12 and 11. Okay. I have four, and they're all technically adults now. We can
All
argue
boys?
about two of each.
Okay.
And you're so right. And children just make it, not they make it worse, but having children, yeah. So when they start going off to college, and you're like, they should be there by now. Why am I not hearing them? Now, thank God for smartphones, because back when I went to school, I just disappeared. My parents wouldn't hear from me for days, so I don't even know how they made it through that. Anyway,
Yeah.
look, you also talk about dreams.
Yeah.
Um, what's your take on dreams, and what do you mean by dreams? Do you mean like the things that happen while I'm sleeping, or are you talking more about hopes for the future?
Yeah, more about hopes in the future, but the word dreams is a little bit tricky. It's become a lot like the word love in our culture. In the same sentence, I can say, I absolutely love going with my wife to get ice cream because I love her so much. And it's like in that sentence, I just said, I love ice cream and I love Jennifer. And so, love has become one of those interesting words where it kind of encapsulates more things than it probably should. And the word dreams, it's very similar. So when you write this book, it's not over, right? It's not over. Leave behind disappointment. Learn to dream again. You write this book, people see the word dream, and we have a tendency to think about like running out and starting a company or starting a ministry or something on the outside of us that we want to chase down. Now, in the book, I talk about dreams and chasing after things that we feel like God's called us to. But here's what I want to point out too. Dreams are also things that are on the inside of us, not just things on the outside of us we're chasing down, but they're dreams on the inside of us that we want to see become a reality. For instance, one of my dreams would be to someday overcome insecurity. It's a dream of mine in my heart. It's an internal dream because I so often deal with comparison. I so often deal with feeling insecure in my own skin. And for many people, the dream could be to see their marriage restored, or their dream could be to see their kids give their life to Christ. The dream could be to overcome an addiction that's been crippling them. Their dream could be to see their financial picture change. And so for me, the word dream really is a hope on the outside of us or a hope on the inside of us that we're chasing down, something that we're hoping to see become a reality, and we're willing to fight through the resistance in order to get there. And so it's not necessarily the dreams that we have at night, which I don't dream much if I'm just keeping it real. Like, I don't dream much. My wife, though, she has this ability. I even told her this morning, every morning she wakes up and says, "Want to hear my dream I had last night?" I'm thinking, I don't know if you're eating bad pizza the night before, if you get up and have a midnight snack I don't know about, but how do you dream every night? For me, I don't have a lot of nighttime dreams, but I do have a lot of dreams in my heart. And so that's something that the book talks a lot about.
Is she the more creative type and you the more practical type?
I would say we're both pretty
Both
creative.
pretty creative?
I don't. I would say I just never get to that REM level of sleep. I'm not a
Oh,
good sleeper, so
oh.
I mean, she's the other side of that equation. We're sitting on the couch. She's laughing at a show 2 seconds before I look over, and she's out like a light.
Yeah, that's me. Um, and I have weird dreams. Thank God they don't come true because it would freak people out. I have one more question for you. Again, we're talking to Pastor Joshua Gagnon. His new book is called It's Not Over. And for those of you who are new to the show, you are watching Life Today Live. We're on live Monday through Friday right here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, live at noon, and then the replays are up. And so if you're not following or you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do that now so we can have more great conversations, because we have a lot of great guests, just like Mr. Gagnon right there on your screen. But do pick up his book. It is available now. And if you're in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, or Tampa, Florida, you can check out the campuses. What is the website for the church here?
Nextlevel.church.
Okay, nextlevel.church. So you can check out nextlevel.church. And I want to hit one more area that I think is really important that you talk about in your book. Because we talk about having a future, having hopes for the future, not letting our past determine our future, getting through the resistance, finding. These are things that are very difficult to do alone. How important is it that we have community and we have the right people around us?
Yeah, I talk in the book about the different types of people that are in all of our lives. And so we call them, in the book, we call them vampires, zombies, sidekicks, and heroes. And they're not negotiable people. These are people we all have in our lives. And so I talk about how vampires are those people in our life that kind of suck the life out of us. They're not bad people. They're not trying to do it, but you'll get around them. You'll talk about your hopes. You'll talk about the addiction you're trying to overcome, and they just remind you that you haven't been able to do it in the past. What's going to change now? It's just those people that kind of suck the life out of you. They're like, once again, they're not bad people, but you leave the conversation and you're like, man, I think I just lost 4 years of my life. I feel drained. Those are vampires. And then there's zombies. Zombies are the people that we got to be careful of. That's that person in the office that winks at us, yet we're married and they're trying to pull us in a direction that we shouldn't go. Those are the people in our life that are completely pulling us off course. They're taking us away from what God desires for us to do. Those are the zombies. They're leading us towards death. So you've got vampires, zombies, and then I talk about sidekicks. And this is where it gets better. We need sidekicks in our lives. We need the Robins in our life. For me, of course, Jennifer, it's the Holy Spirit. And then right after the Holy Spirit, it's Jennifer. My wife is a sidekick. I've got my best friends in my life that are sidekicks in my life, and they're speaking truth to me. One of the important things to realize is it's unwise to chase after dreams blinded by reality. So it's unwise to just go after things and think all resistance is wrong. There is some resistance that is right. I allow my sidekicks to speak that truth into me.
Yeah.
A rule that I live by, that I'd encourage everybody to live by, is this: never allow anyone to speak into your dreams unless they're willing to sweat into your dreams. I don't let anybody speak into my dreams unless they're willing to sweat alongside of me. So you watch a sporting event, and you'll see everybody out there sweating on the field, and then you've got the people with ketchup and mustard all over their face in the stands screaming at the people on the field. Well, listen, unless you're on that field, you really shouldn't have a voice. And so for me, there are people that tell me no. There are people that tell me I'm wrong. There are people that tell me I'm off course. But they're on the field sweating with me. They're just not in the stands screaming at me. Mm-hmm. And then we need heroes in our life, people that are living the life we hope to someday live. And so for me, like Gordon MacDonald is somebody who for me is a spiritual hero, someone that I'm very close with, I meet with regularly, someone that I admire his marriage with Gail. And so he's in his 80s. He's following after Jesus, and for me, that's a hero in my life. He has a marriage I hope to someday have. He's walking with Christ at a later age. And so for me, you have to have heroes in your life. Once again, heroes are people living a life today that you someday hope to live. So you get in their presence and you learn from them. So zombies, vampires, sidekicks, and heroes, and we talk more about that in the book, of course.
Yeah, no, I like that, and what a great point about having some skin in the game, because you're right. If you start to listen to the critics, and even on the flip side, you start listening to the people that tell you how great something is, that can sway you in an area that's not good. But if they got some sweat going on, then they're far more invested and far more in tune, and it's far more meaningful, both the praise and the criticism. Really, really good materials. Before we get out of here, just tell us what's going on with you and what you're hoping to see, what your church is doing, and maybe how we can pray for you and the whole Next Level Church group.
Yeah, well, we're seeing God do great things in this season. We got this virus going on. We haven't been able to meet in physical locations, but God is moving in powerful ways. I love that His church doesn't get quiet. It gets loud in these seasons, and it prevails in these seasons. So we have an online location. You can go to nextlevel.church and hop onto our online location every single Sunday where we're preaching the gospel, and God's changing lives. We've had hundreds of salvations in the past weeks. We're in the middle of construction on some new facilities, so we are excited to open those new locations up, hoping to open up a new location in Tampa coming out of the summer. And so God's just doing great things. I really do believe I have the honor of pastoring some of the greatest people in the whole world, and I have the greatest staff in the world. And so as much as there's pain in the midst of anything you're chasing down and any dream you're living out, man, I'm so thankful for the blessings that God has given me on this journey. And so thanks so much for having me on. Thanks for hanging out, having this conversation with me. I'm thankful for all that you guys do to spread the gospel.
Oh yeah, hey man, just here to partner with you in the mission we both share in reaching lives. So appreciate you. Again, Joshua Gagnon, check out It's Not Over. Check out nextlevel.church. I got that right? Nextlevel.church?
Nextlevel.church.
And good encouragement. We appreciate you. And invite all of you guys to come back again tomorrow. I'm not sure what's going on tomorrow, but it will be interesting. I can promise you that. And then for the next 2 weeks, we already have wonderful guests booked solid every day, Monday through Friday, right here on Life Today Live. So please come back. Joshua, again, appreciate you, everything that you're doing. Anybody out there in one of your areas, go check out one of his campuses. And next time you're in Texas, feel free to come by. We're close to the airport. Say hi. Show you the studio.
Let's do it. Love to.
Thanks again for hanging out. We'll see you again next time on Life Today Live.